companion will be telling us all about how I spent my summer 6 months vacation. So they are on.
Could you please not stand in front of the
I
screen?
won't, I won't.
You get the lights.
What do you want?
Lower? Chandelier's down a lot.
Chandeliers are off.
Look at that. I appreciate that, thank you. I'll be with you in a minute, that's why. Any darker? We get this darker in the front? A little darker in the front? A little darker in the front? I appreciate that.
No snoring.
That's perfect, thank you. Hi, welcome to our great big trip around the world with my wife, Bev Shepard.
Hi, welcome.
And she's the smarter person and the better half of me. You can catch us all at travelswithbevanddrake.com about a Viking world cruise around the world. Travel is prejudice, it's fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness. This is about taking it to the limit one more time. It's about a world voyage that we had 1 year exactly ago today on a Viking world cruise. First of all, we started in Fort Lauderdale, going down south into the Panama Canal, out to Los Angeles, out to the Hawaiian Islands, out to the South Pacific Islands, into New Zealand, around to the eastern part of Australia, and out into Malaysia, out to Singapore, out to India, out to the South Indian Ocean Islands, around Africa, safaris there, and around the Cape Horn, up here, up north, and into Portugal, Spain, England, Scotland, Norway, Iceland, Greenland, and back out to New York. This is covering 35 countries around the world on 6 continents. This is about dreaming big. And on the Viking Sky, which was a ship that's 740 feet long, 94 feet wide, and had 930 passengers and a crew of 550, 10 stories high. And yes, 20 people from the villages were on this, but we didn't know that. We did this separately with them. This is how you plan for this kind of trip. Took 23 months of planning, taking 9 suitcases, luggage forwarding, put things on auto pay to pay bills, backpacks, carry-ons, everything, including the kitchen sink. And if you want to know about the place, which I know you're going to ask me, it's online with Viking Ocean Cruises. You need to take all your medication, winter clothes, summer clothes, shoes, and someone to watch your house and drive your car now and then. And this trip was 41,000 nautical miles, going 11,000 miles in the air, taking 30,000 pictures, crossing 4 oceans, going at 16 knots, plus taking hundreds of miles.
We walked 525 miles per microdometer over a 6-month period of time. So that's all the walking, climbing, steps in the ship, 525 miles.
As well as bus tours of thousands of miles. So, this is 270 square feet of our Viking Sky Cabin. I know all of you have had these on cruise ships. And with a balcony with 2 chairs. And the issue is, can a married couple share one room without driving each other nuts?
We did it.
And we did it, I think. We did it. And it's about 2 tickets to paradise and endless summer. Adventures is all I see. And we wanted to do something different on our cruise. We wanted to get away from the tourist areas, a lot less shopping. We didn't want to look like LL Bean mannequins out of a catalog with all these silly clothes on. We wanted to have shorts, shirt, and water bottle. And we didn't want to go to where TV set locations or film locations, alcohol-free, and no namby-pamby tours. It's about finding wildness when we can. Instead, we wanted to be active. We wanted to climb it, feel it, have these excursions. We wanted to fall into the sun, exactly right out of a song, and be intimate with our heart and soul into it. We wanted to touch the flame where the streets have no name. And first we went to Costa Rica down south. We took aerial tram rides and about the ATV. which she liked more than I did.
He couldn't wait to get off of it.
So, these are these muddy, bumpy roads we went on. Next, we took a crocodile tour in Costa Rica on the river, seeing these crocodiles here. Crocodile safari. Next, we went through the Panama Canal, which is to go from the Atlantic to the Pacific, and you have to go through 3 locks on the Panama Canal, raising your ship up about 25 feet per lock, going up 85 feet. And these are the shots. It took 6 hours to go through it with our ship. From the front of the ship, we stood there and watched them all go through this, going 50 miles through the Panama Canal. This was like as the locks filled with water to raise our ship up, and then they move us to another one. A long process, but fun. Next, we went up north into Cabo San Lucas, Mexico. A number of you have been there, seeing a whale watching tour, watching them come up periodically and flop in the water like this, and these kind of sites out there on eco tours out there. These excursions do cost extra. You get what you pay for when you're with on these tours. Next, we went to up north in Malibu to the Getty Villa, where we saw the museum there.
The day after we were at the Getty Museum is when they had the fire. So just remember that there's one road in and one road out. If we had been there the day of the fire, we would have been stuck. 3 busloads of Viking tourists stuck out at the Getty Museum with no way back. I don't know how we would have got to the ship. So we managed to do it the day before when we got back to the ship, and then we saw pictures of the fire. It was just devastating. We were one of the last tours out there to see this wonderful place.
All the homes on the beachside were all destroyed. Thousands of homes, people lost their lives. All the difference of a day makes, right? Next, we went out from LA to Hawaii, where we saw the Pearl Harbor Monument, a very touching exhibit that they had there where it sank those years ago, 75 years ago. And this is when we started doing things on our own. This was hard for us to get away from Viking tours and to be independent, because we didn't have that much experience with it, and we were naive and a bit innocent about this. So we took a tour. On our own, we hiked up Diamond Head to the trail to see these kind of shots.
We ended up taking an Uber ride there and an Uber ride back. So what we did is we went out of our comfort zone to try something new, to see if we could do this in Hawaii. This is a trial run, first of many other Uber rides that we took and excursions we took without Viking, because Viking wanted to charge us $69 for the bus ride each from the boat to Diamond Head, and it cost about $10 by Uber. So
the shot of Honolulu, Waikiki Beach on our own, and then south. We had to cross the equator, and when you do that, you come to the Order of Neptune, where you kiss a dead fish, pay homage to it, and get dumped in the water. Traditional thing sailors do. And then we went to the South Sea Islands in Oceania, where we had a 4x4 that is a Jeep to take us on large hills and just bumpy roads, tall, way high up, to see these kind of shots. I've never seen so many colored blue in my whole life in Bora Bora. It was absolutely stunning, what we see here. And next we went south to Tahiti. Phuket is the capital there. And we took a tour on a 4x4 in an old caldera that had overgrown. It was very big, with lush jungle. They had 5 waterfalls in it. And we toured this place with other people on a 4x4, going these across water areas. And we're jumping into ponds where waterfalls were. It was like being in Jurassic Park. And I loved it there. That's my favorite place to be, in Tahiti. It's just beautiful. And at this point, I had too much salt on the ship, so my feet started to swell. And I was wondering what was going on. Too much salt. And then we went to the Cook Islands in Oceania, took a 4x4 again on there to see their beautiful areas by the beaches and to see these kind of shots. And we went to the Murray Beach Resort there in Rorachanga, Cook Islands. And this kind of island interests me. And we had spruce shoes on to walk across the coral to be able to get to this island. It was like visiting Gilligan's Island. And we wanted to have these kind of adventures. We wanted to have Tom Sawyer and Becky Thatcher adventure days. This is exactly what I wanted to have. No more of this namby-pamby Rick Steve stuff. Let's do something where we're going to have a vacation. You're only going to be there once, so make it.
The water to that island was even a foot deep. It didn't even get up to our knees, so it was very shallow on the walk out there.
Thank you. And next we cross the international date line, where if you cross it going west, you have to lose a day. And how did we make it up?
Periodically over the next 5.5 months, we would pick up an hour at a time. Sometimes we lost an hour, sometimes we picked up a half an hour, but by the time we got back to New York, we were on Eastern time.
We headed west to top New Zealand, which is broken up into two parts, the North Island and the South Island. We had a glowworm tour where these bioluminescent creatures are at the top of the ceiling and light up, hundreds and hundreds of them in this cave system there in the North Island of New Zealand. We also ran into the Bay of Islands and Rainbow Falls there, a very picturesque place to be with water flowing and a rainbow by the falls there. In addition, we had a bathroom tour. They have Art Deco bathrooms there in north part of New Zealand, and I thought I'd show you some shots.
It's a tourist stop.
And we had 65 days at sea. That means nothing to do. So what do you do on those days at sea? Well, you can lounge around at the pool, lounge on these chairs there, and all ships have these kind of atrium. And we saw 220 lectures in the Viking Auditorium, like right here. And we have cruise port talks. We have cruise talks. An astronaut came on board, geologists, historians, people would tell us about the area that we would be going into next. Like whatever area, we picked it up. Like
They also had nightly entertainment on stage that you could go and see performances.
we'd sit in the middle, and yes, I fell asleep with some of them. Yeah. Went to Auckland, New Zealand, at the North Island, the capital, and we saw they still have their World War II battle monuments there, and bunkers and cannons in the North Island of New Zealand. In the North Island, we also went to Rotorua, which is a geothermal hotspot with bubbling mud pots that we saw. It was like a Yosemite. With
Yellowstone.
Thank you, Yellowstone, we appreciate that. With these geothermal hotspots, the Pohuru geyser that would erupt every hour, and lakes that would have different colors of green or blue in them. We spent time here. We went to the Napier area where they went to an aquarium, and we wanted to get real close to waterfalls without falling. Because I love them, and we both love them. We wanted to see it as close as possible. Went to the Napier Aquarium there.
When we walked into the aquarium, they had a sign on there that welcome Viking cruisers. It was sort of amazing to see that.
It was wonderful to see. They had a great aquarium. And then we went on a special Viking tour with about 30 other guests. We left the ship and went from the North Island on a special excursion to the South Island to go to Christchurch, Queenstown, and Milford Sound. And we took an airplane there, a special private seat 8, a propeller plane. And on the way there, we saw the Southern Alps. We crossed them. They were just gorgeous in New Zealand. And in Christchurch, we bumped into the Antarctic Center, and where they train for Antarctic expeditions. Here we are being simulated in a very cold environment there. And on their tram, simulating what it would be like in the Antarctic and seeing their penguins. And then the highlight of the tour was to go to Milford Sound, which is a fjord in the South Island of New Zealand, on the edge. And we would take a boat ride. These are very deep, between 700 and 700 feet tall and 700 feet deep. And we would take this right from our plane, we would take this. We would see this in Milford Sound, these kind of shots, Sterling Falls, a couple hundred feet tall. And we were on a boat to tour this wonderful fjord there. See these kind of shots? This is just absolutely stunning. Right out of a postcard. And we went to Queenstown, where there's a restaurant at the top. We were to meet the group. And there's a cable car going up, and I'm not going to take a cable car going up. I'm going to take the Tiki Trail going up, which is about 140 stories tall. It took me an hour and 15 minutes to meet them up there. And around this point, I had SSHL, something that happened just automatically to me. My hearing in my right ear went out for 12 days, and it just went out. Something you can't prepare for or can't take medication for or plan for. But it did come back, and it scared me. As soon as that happened with me, with hearing loss, I felt instantly alone, isolated, aloof, and I was sad because I couldn't communicate right. About 12 days when it came back. So I took the Tiki Trail, not going up these, and I met her at the top of that. So I usually go my own way of things. And we were panning for gold in New Zealand, in South Park, and Mount Cook. And whenever we sailed into port, it was always a wonderful thing to do, because I always get so excited about doing that, going into port. Running out to the front of the ship and taking pictures. It was very exciting seeing what kind of wind turbines they have, or what structures they have at their port. And then we went west to Sydney, Australia, where we did the Sydney Bridge climb, and my wife
Got
has,
this nifty hat.
here she is, and yes, you have to pay extra to do this, all these excursions. And you can climb this bridge where they have this. We went with a number of other people. We had to be strapped in, wear these special clothes. And we saw this. She liked it, I didn't, because nothing was under me. But we still had a great time. We saw shots like this of Sydney. It's a gorgeous city. As well as Sydney Opera House, which I know many of you have seen.
We were actually able to see the Viking ship from on top of the Sydney Bridge.
So we wanted to hike this bridge, not just look at it and take a picture. Sydney Opera House made of all tiles, by the way. And we went to the Australian Zoo, actually west on this, going up to it. We could pet kangaroos, check out koalas, and pet them at the zoo. This is the home of Steve Irwin, the crocodile hunter, where they had an animal show where they fed the crocodiles there, as well as did us. And they were scared, I'll tell you. And then we went up to the Great Barrier Reef, going up north and west into Australia. This is 1,400 miles long. This is the world's largest living organism. It consists of about 4,000 reefs and islands that make up this. We had 2 excursions. One was out swimming in this area by this waterfall, and this area where
I went snorkeling. I've never in my life snorkeled. I never again in my life will snorkel because I drank so much of the water because I'm not used to breathing through your mouth for that. But yes, I did snorkel and I did see the Great Barrier Reef underwater and the coral and all that. It was quite awesome. I was quite proud of myself for doing that.
So she did that. They had this big pontoon out, way offshore. You go there and they can eat there and take the tours from there. Instead of snorkeling, I did the glass-bottom boat and a semi-submersible with this kind of situation. It was wonderful. From there, we went on a trip, the Adelaide, going up north in Australia, a crocodile cruise again, to see this. See these kind of guys in the water.
They're like 10 feet long.
Oh, they were huge. They're king of the crop. And then we went to Komodo Island to see the Komodo Island dragons, which we have a shirt for that.
Oh.
We'll go in the light.
Oh, sorry. There you go.
And Komodo Island. And we saw them fighting, water buffalo going into Malaysia, that is going north and west, going this way. In Malaysia, we went to Bali. And you better believe you have to be covered up to go into their Hindu areas and temples. And there was something on your head, and then something to cover your legs. So this is Hindu area, Bali, Indonesia, going up this way. And we saw Jakarta from there. Go back. Jakarta would be here, the next island up, Java. We saw them do plays at night, do their dancing at night, special occasions. And we saw their World Heritage Site rice paddies, which are all over the place. Just hundreds and hundreds of miles of them. rice paddies. And we went to a rubber plantation and also a tea plantation. And we collected rubber, which they turned into sheets here, which is latex sheets. From there, we saw other kind of rice paddies are being grown out here in Java. And we went to a tea plantation. Usually I don't talk about food on these kind of locations, but in this case, it was a fantastic bamboo forest restaurant in the middle of absolutely nowhere. Truck stopped, we got off with our people, went to a restaurant in the middle of a bamboo forest, in the middle of absolutely nowhere, and it was just wonderful. Went to a tea plantation and watched them pick tea. This is just right out of the shots that you would see, iconic shots. Bamboo forest. And we went into Jakarta, Chinatown, and we went to a mosque. Again, you had to cover up. What I like about mosques is that there's no chair. It's a very humbling experience to see people on their knees on the ground. And be dressed up. And then the big wow was Singapore. This was a fantastic place. This is in Malaysia, going west, and this is an island nation where a ship stop, you can actually see trams going through buildings for people to get to work. And they have this place called Gardens of the Bay, where they have these super tree groves made of 200-foot metal trees that look like this. And you can wander around in there and see their giant greenhouses here. These are the world's largest greenhouses, and they got the money out there to do this. And we saw a cloud forest, 86,000 square feet, where you walk up 5 stories, you go on these ramps where they had it raining on you, and see thousands and thousands of plants, a 7-foot waterfall, and into a
7-story waterfall.
7-story waterfall. Thank you for saying that. 7-story. And into a flower dome, 129,000 square feet. Again, ramps going up around. And we saw how they make things green there in Singapore. We were with a guide for 2 of these lectures. She lived in a subsidized apartment because it's very expensive to have anything. You don't have individual homes. There's no land. A car costs $100,000 for a permit for 10 years, and plus the price of the car, and then you have to reapply after 10 years later to do it again. So that's why public transportation is a big deal. She took public transportation just to give our tour, and she lives with her extended family in a small apartment there. It's very expensive, but fun.
They have no old cars there because after 10 years, it's not worth getting another $100,000 on a 10-year-old car. So their cars are no older than 10 years.
We saw Singapore at night on the Singapore River. Went up to here, Marina Bay Sands, 57 stories up to take pictures like this. And this is what it looks like at night. It was beautiful at night on the Singapore River. And of course on the river, I fell in love with the merlion, which is a lion and a mermaid at the same place. And she was just beautiful. Liked it. And out west and north of Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, the capital there, we saw the Petronas Towers. Used to be the world's tallest buildings, and their architecture, again, another mosque to cover up. And from there, we took a special trip with another couple who went off ship and did something on our own. We went out to India, Kuala Lumpur, all the way out to the Golden Triangle.
So this was through Viator. There's supposed to be 3 couples, and one couple had to leave the ship because she threw out her knee and needed an operation. So it's just us, another couple. We flew to New Delhi, met up with our guide, went around India, and again, on our own, taking the risk, doing something other than doing it with Viking.
Went to 3 areas, New Delhi, Agra, and Jaipur, the Golden Triangle. At this point, I had gained 15 pounds from being on the ship. It took me 3 months to lose it after I got home. So we saw this with this. We saw the Taj Mahal from this point. And then from here, we got right into it early in the morning. And it's made of all stone. It's the most beautiful building in the world, and it's just stunning inside. Of which you see in the inside, the sarcophagus is of Shah Jahan and his wife Taj. Inside here, and what you think is wood is made out of stone. They put the money on this one. It's stunning. Hundreds and hundreds of people were there. They get tens of millions of visitors a year there. And our tour guide from Viator then took us around the area. saw Indian step wells where you go down there and bathe or get water, like an M.C. Escher painting, if you follow art, very much like this, and they were built hundreds of years ago. These kind of places. We took tours of these. And we went out to Jaipur, we rode an elephant, fed one.
Drake couldn't wait to get off. He was scared. He's hanging on for dear life, and I'm raising my hands and yay, let's go.
So, we went out to Jaipur, and this is called the Pink City, with their pink granite that they have there. And we went out to New Delhi, more step wells, and we went out to the Sultan Palace out here, where the king would live out with his harem. And we decided, well, instead of taking a picture of a minaret, I'd rather just climb it. So they had a stairwell inside. Only problem going down the minaret was, which are at the top, is there was no railing going down, so I had to put my elbows against the walls going down. It was very precarious, but still fun. And we went to a Sikh temple, and we saw how they prepared food and fed it to people, of course, sitting down. And we went for a long time in New Delhi and saw their street life, and they had shops for everything. One area just for selling sinks, another area just for selling stationery, another area for wedding presents, another area just for spices, 2 blocks of spices. Everything was a beautiful mess going down to watch this, and that's what life is, isn't it? Went on tuk-tuks also to get through New Delhi, and we went to the Lotus Temple, an architectural wonder. It was wonderful being there. It was nice to see how different people live, and they're still happy living this way. Next we then took, to meet the ship, we had to fly back in Sri Lanka. We met the ship, and within an hour we were on another ride, safari in Sri Lanka to see a reserve there in the rain. Saw Asian elephants with the small ears.
This was another excursion overnight off the ship.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then we went to the Maldives, which are way away from Sri Lanka, with an island paradise. And my son went there on his honeymoon. So it's beautiful out there. We went to the Seychelles, which is a South Indian Ocean island, and there you could feed these giant tortoises. They weigh a couple 100 pounds each. And I made the mistake of feeding it a berry, and then it chipped off part of my finger, so I was bleeding. So, but anyways, they were tame and everything. Just next time I'll have to watch what I'm doing. And they're like big bowling balls running around, and next we head west to Kenya, went to Tsavo National Park, and this is how close we were to the elephants. See, this close on these safaris in Africa, we saw hundreds of elephants, dozens and dozens of giraffes, and many lions. Let me show you about them, like a lioness. And yes, they just lay there. When your Jeep goes by, they're still sleeping, because they know they're not going to be attacked. So they're real laid back. And a water buffalo and giraffes. And here we are feeding giraffes in Mombasa, Kenya, at their zoo there. And we saw this kind of wildlife, going there feeding crocodiles with raw chicken, chameleon, and lioness. And elephants always protect their young, just like this. Giraffes and hippos. And next we took a special excursion from Kenya, the coast. We went inside Africa to where Zimbabwe, Zambia, and Botswana meet, all right here. There's something very special here. 2 things. The Chobe National Park, where they have monkeys there, lioness, leopards. We took 3 excursions and 3 safaris a day, 1 on the river, 1 early in the morning, and 1 near sunset, for 3 days. And this was the highlight of the show there. This guy was a lion that walked down this dirt path that we followed in a Jeep. Actually went up to the side of him, and he'd pass us, and we'd pass him again. And he was right next to me on the left side. I could hear him breathing. He was 3 feet tall, 8 feet long, and it was just immense to seeing him roar and breathe like this. And at the end of this walk, he just lay down in the middle of the road, and you bet he was king of the road. And all the Jeeps would stand by in awe. Everybody would have their mouths open. This guy owned the place. And we saw these lionesses also. They were waiting for water buffalo to come here to drink. They were daring them. you come close and we'll attack you. No one wants to deal with these four people, these four lionesses. These were their cubs. And actually, they did chase the water buffalo for a while, a whole herd of them, like 80 or 90 of them. And it was fun because the water buffalo all at once stopped and then chased the lions back. And then I said, yeah, go for it. Yeah, we want to see you knock them out. But everybody's just too fast. So they played a game of chicken with the water buffalo. And here are the elephants. We on river tours there in Chobe National Park, and how they drink and frolic in the water. And yes, we have videos of all these things on our website, travelswithbevanddrake.com. And here they are feeding a hippo. That's how big they open up. And when he shows them that, it means he's either hungry or he's aggressive. And they're right here in the water. And this is how close we were to the elephants with tusks. And then we saw giraffes doing this. One was a young giraffe that was killed. See how the inside was eaten out by the lions that are waiting nearby? And they separate that from the mom, and then they can get the kids. And then we saw them.
The giraffes were having neck fights. They were practicing mating rituals with other males, and we watched this for like 15 or 20 minutes, and you could actually hear them thudding, their necks thudding each other, making a loud noise. But they're practicing fighting, sparring to get the females.
So we've never seen this on any nature show. It went on and on and on. They were just play fighting. That's them doing it right there. And here's a big plunk, plunk, plunk. And then we saw another highlight was watching where the scavengers are. This hyena was by this dead elephant along with 30 other vultures. Here he is right here, and he's king of the scavengers. And very protective of what he was doing. And it smelled to high heaven. It was fun watching it. Saw the lion, kudzu,
We forgot. We forgot what that was called.
And then on these Jeeps here, we go about 7 or 8 people in them. On these Jeeps with the driver. And they look for these animals. Going on safaris that would last a couple hours each, about 2 hours or 3 hours. And we saw hundreds and hundreds of impalas, more and more hippos, a lioness that would just lay on the ground, run right next to him, and he'd just be sleeping, she'd just be sleeping. Elephants and hippos and mongooses crossing the road. And we take a river tour, and this is how close we get to the elephants bathing in the water. Here they are going away. And this is all the places you would go, and we wanted to dream it and do it. Wanted to be intimate with it. And another highlight was we took a special tour again, and by Chobe National Park, where this area confluence was of countries, we saw Victoria Falls. This is the world's largest waterfall, largest curtain of waterfall in the world that goes 1 mile. And they had stations in them. You go and take pictures at different parts of them. This whole thing was a mile long to get out there, and obviously a mile back. So we took this 3 times, round trips, and we crossed the bridge another 4th time. We walked so much it was so wet my shoes fell apart. And we saw these stations here, and this is what we saw. There's tremendous amounts of water going on for a mile in these gorges. And you get to viewpoints and see them. Millions of gallons of water a minute. Rainbows below us, not on top of us. It's a place I've heard about on travel shows, and I wanted to see it. And we spent 7 hours there 1 year ago, exactly from today we were there.
Yeah.
And we see these waterfalls from there. It just kept flowing all the time. Rainbows below us. Again, this is what it looked like. The noise was tremendous. It was always wet. We always have to wipe off our cameras and things, and we carry a towel with us from the ship to do this. It was always wet but fun. It creates its own weather system. And here we are again. It goes into this gorge. It was spectacularly wet. We had to wear ponchos, but it was fun. We crossed this bridge going into another country, then walk back. At least we had our boots in the other country. And then we went on safari going south, again around the Cape of Africa and Durban, Africa, where these animals were placed in this area. They're not native to it, but I've never seen so many ostriches there. One came up right next to our Jeep we were in, right next to us.
We thought he was going to poke his head inside of it.
You know, they have eyeballs the size of ping pong balls. It's really just huge. And a lion there, and hippos and rhinos close by, and they were all placed there for tourists. Next we went to Cape Town, going south and west. And the fun thing about Cape Town is, we got a shirt for this, Table Mountain, which goes 350 stories up. And we have shirts there for that. Because I wanted to hike Platinum Gorge, which is the trail going up here. She took the cable car, and I went up, and I invited 700 people from the ship on Facebook to go up with me. Nobody took me on. I said, did all the right things. Is it in you? Just do it. You got it in you? Just do it. And no one took me on at all. So I went up myself. It was just an hour and 15 minutes to go up. It was just a water bottle. That's all you need. One lady was going to come up and said, oh, I bet you're going to get robbed on this. I said, hell no. Just go up. You're only there once. Do it. So this is what it was like. It was fun. And I met her at the top, and we went cable car down. Next we went out to Namibia, where we went to an old mining town that had been deserted. It was built 120 years ago, but deserted in the 50s. And you bet, nature takes over, and nature finds the way because it was covered in sand. The whole area was a ghost town, covered literally in sand everywhere you went. Abandoned area, looked like this and like this. The sand was coming out of everything. It was going everywhere, right out of it. And with bathtubs everywhere, just an old, like a Twilight Zone movie being in there. It was beautiful. That's what I like. Simple and natural. And no tourist shops. And this is, again, the ship took us out to an area an hour away from the ships in the middle where these great sand dunes all meet together. And they have a big feast outside for the whole ship went out there actually, all the people from it, all the tourists from it. But we had a feast out there, but instead I wanted to walk up the sand dune, which is about 400 feet tall. There I am. And these are sand dunes all over. This goes for 1,200 miles up the coast of the Namib Desert in this country, Namib Desert, Namibia. We went on these jeep rides through these areas, through the sand dunes, and right by the coast. It was tremendous doing this with these sand dunes. And we went to Walvis Bay up north. And there we had a trained seal. I came on board and they had a trained pelican which we fed. But the fun part was when we went into the fur seals going on this trip. We saw thousands and thousands of these fur seals along the side of the water on the beach. All females waiting for the males to come back on these fur seals, and it looked just like this. It was a calliope of splashing and honking, and it was just all over the place. There was, everywhere you go, there were these fur seals all over. It was tremendous to watch. From there we saw their salt holdings, and the water turns pink when the salt water, when they make it into salt, like here. From there we went to Cape Verde Islands, which is just west of North Africa. And the Sahara Desert had blown all the sand in over there and made these tremendous sand dunes there. Tens of thousands of years of sand blowing in made these sand dunes, which we like to climb and see these kind of shots out in Cape Verde Islands. And then out to the Canary Islands, out west again of Africa, where we see these kind of locations. This was a fun ride going down these treacherous things with a car. It was like going on a Disney ride going down on this.
A roller coaster ride.
Oh, thank you, a roller coaster ride. Just like, I'm sorry, like this. And here we are, we went on a special trip then with Viking off the ship with about 100 other people, I think, to Morocco. We went to Marrakesh and Casablanca. And it took us about 4 days out there. We saw the sights from the Viking ship instead of staying on the ship. And we saw the sights in Marrakesh and all the bazaars that they have and all the Islamic mosques and shopping bazaars and architecture that they would have, all designs. They can't have pictures of Islamic architecture. And stalls there, as well as their schools and their mosques in Casablanca and in Marrakesh. as well as in Casablanca, their old forts, and how to go up out in their mosque they had built. It was just beautiful. And out to Rick's Cafe in Casablanca, and the architecture there. And then we went up north into Portugal and went to Porto, Portugal. And in Porto, we saw their 200-year-old stone buildings, which were just magnificent to look at. We took a walking tour there. We saw their beautiful stone buildings. And this is the detail on them. We walked for about 2 hours doing this. Was there a bus or
Train
we
station.
get it all mixed up? This is their train station that they had. It was gorgeous. And this was something in northern West Spain that we bumped into. And this was the end of a trail, a walking trail called El Camino de Santiago, that you can take, that most European tourists take. That is, about tens of thousands of them take this trail. It's a pilgrimage hiking trail where you end up here in the courtyard of this church. And this is what we saw. We saw these people congregating here because they had done something important. They had accomplished something. They walked part of this trail, or they walked the whole thing. And we saw this man here. This is our Viking guide. We bumped into this guy, and this guy had a certificate for walking this, and he walked it because of his wife. This is his wife's shoe in honor of her wife. He wanted to have penance, or he wanted to do something important. And this is where all the young people gathered. And that's where I wanted to be with young people. I figured there where the action is, and so this is where they ended up doing in this giant square. A lot of them had accomplished this particular, this trail or part of it, and it was like a celebration being there. And end up here in the center of this church is a Baroque masterpiece where the remains of St. James is. So what do we have out here in the villages for our accomplishments? Well, last week in the sports section, it was about indoor shuffleboard. Really? Indoor shuffleboard? That's what we celebrate? We can do better than that, I believe. Today's paper, well, they have the opening of Blanchard Recreation Center, some people playing bocce ball. Really? Well, these people actually went on this trail and did something. This is where Europeans go. They have a much different viewpoint than we do. Much more active and much more fun. Moving on, we went up north into Paris. The Arc de Triomphe, and we wanted to go to the Louvre, and this is the story. Went to Paris from here.
So the ship docked in Honda Flores to Paris is a 3-hour bus ride. After we did the two things that he just said, because I can't remember their names, the bus dropped us off and we literally ran down to the Louvre. Inside the Louvre, we hit all the exhibits we wanted. We went from one, asked where the next one is, and went from one to one, ignored all the lines, cut in, and just got to see because we had 3 hours in the Louvre. And then we get out, run back to the bus, but they told us where to meet the bus. We had 8 minutes to spare before the bus left. I literally cried because it was a 3.5-hour ride back to the ship, and if we missed that bus, I don't know how we would have got back to the boat.
So literally, this was the amazing race. We ran we had a certain amount of time to do it. We ran to the Louvre, and we got in, cut through the lines, Liberty leading the people, Mona Lisa, Venus de Milo, seeing where the crown jewels were stolen in the summer, and water fountains. And it's either we had to pick one, either the Louvre, the Notre Dame, or the Eiffel Tower, and we picked the Louvre. Which one would you pick? So, we saw all these sites, the Vatican Apartments, and Victory Nike. So, we have to go back to catch it. It was either one chance and that's it. Because there's a 3-hour bus ride going each way. And then we bumped north into London, England. We went into the White Cliffs of Dover, which were just literally outside our balcony. They were just gorgeous, hundreds of feet tall. And we saw the Tower of London, where they keep the crown jewels, and you were on a conveyor belt that goes past these, like a people walker that goes past the crown jewels. We also bumped into these. These were the Thames River patrol for flooding. And our ship barely got through it to go through these. That's how they control the flooding there. And we saw the Crown Jewels and Tower of London. So we saw Big Ben, Parliament, and Tower Bridge. It was gorgeous in London. We had a whole day. We went off the Viking ship. The Viking ship parked there for a couple days, and we did things on our own there. Again, getting out. One of them was just wandering around London.
Again, it was an Uber tour. We took an Uber to London, got on the hop-on, hop-off bus and saw all this. Then the next day we took another Uber ride to the train station where we caught a bus that went out to Stonehenge.
Instead of going to Highclere Castle where they built Downton Abbey, we decided to do something more adventurous. And we took the Stonehenge tour. It was beautiful there, very solemn. We saw where the sun goes over the Heelstone. And with our Viator tour, we took in the town of Bath, an 18th century marble, and the ancient Roman baths. We spent over 10 hours on doing all this stuff. And we bumped into on our own, also a day in London, the changing of the guard in front of Buckingham Palace, and we just did this by accident and watched them do this, what I wanted to see. And then we took it to southern England. We went on a castle. We had old-fashioned trains. We'd have tea and crumpets on the train, and then go to these castles. This was one of them. Just the outside of the castle is left on these castles. There's no inside on them anymore. They've all been rotted away. This is exactly what it looked like. We wanted to be Mr. and Mrs. Indiana Jones circumnavigating the world. And again, the Scottish castles where there's nothing in the courtyard anymore, but the stone structures, the turrets, and the outside of the building, castles were intact. And you could climb up on these, and that was another adventure. Again, nothing inside, just the walls left over. In different areas, an old-fashioned cemetery. And then we went to Liverpool to be with the boys. And we saw their wind turbines, which I thought were just beautiful. We liked the way the European countries did something about the environment rather than doing nothing. So we liked that a lot with the boys. And this is the English countryside. It was right out of a postcard. We went on this Viator tour, and these are the kind of scenes you would see from it. It's very inspiring to see such pastoral, scenic wonders. And the world's longest name, which you can't pronounce. And at this point in May, about 5 months into the tour, we experienced vacation fatigue. A little bit too much of it, but we know we wanted to keep going. But it was a bit much. We took these old-fashioned trains that would follow these kind of streams for miles and go at a slow pace to see the English countryside and North Wales and near Scotland. Into Dublin, Ireland, to see these kind of places, these kind of estates. You can go see and wander their grounds for them, on them. Giant's Causeway in Northern Ireland, with its hexagonal basalt columns that are geologic wonders. I was a geology major, so I love being here. These kind of columns, these basalt stepping stones, you can go all over the place on. It looked like this and went out to sea. These are basalt columns that you can go on. And more castles, more turrets and castles. And Scotland, in Scotland, we went on a high geology walk up a tall mountain and hiked it and saw geologic wonders. As well as went out to Orkney Islands, which are north of Scotland, and saw these stone monuments. Kind of like a Stonehenge, but not that sophisticated or dramatic. But they're still standing, which is beautiful. We found out about them and the ancient mounds they have left, us right here, and other castles and monasteries, ones were monasteries in Ireland and Scotland. And then from there we went up north into Norway. We would go to Stavanger, Bergen,
Stavanger.
thank you for pronouncing it right, and Ellison, and up in here in the Arctic Circle. And we would take RIB rides, rigid and floatable boats. We would take power rides out to these, going very fast, and wear these special suits. And we would see these kinds of things in their Norwegian fjords, and going very fast and checking out the waterfalls and the scenic wonders of these fjords, and seeing this kind of wildlife, these kind of bridges. And that would be ecstasy, chasing waterfalls with you endlessly. So this is what we saw. And into Bergen, where there's, many of you have been there. Yes. And see the architecture there, old warehouses there. And in Bergen, we stayed a couple days, and we saw their architecture there, as well as climbed Mount Florian, which is 100 stories tall. And she did this one, she did wonderful. And at the top of it, scenic views, we would see things like this, which turned into this. And this, Bergen, an old-fashioned town. And we took an e-bike ride and to go up. At this point, we saw a lot of people on these kind of trails. At 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, a lot of young people going. It was nice to see so many young people, not on phones, but actually doing something like riding a bike, walking, running. It was just wonderful seeing dozens and dozens of people doing this as the sights that we saw running on our e-bikes out there. And I hiked up on Erliken, over 200 stories tall, and to go up there, and I met her at the top. She took the cable car up, and we had these kind of viewpoints, and our ship was down here somewhere. And this is the point when I saw women, young women who had babies, and put them on their backpack, and they hiked right up with me. They were tremendous. That's the kind of woman that I like.
And they would pass him up, with the baby on their back.
Tell them that.
You didn't want me to mention that
No,
part.
no, not that cool. So anyways, from there we crossed the Arctic Circle and into the ice pond in our ship. They filled with ice, across the Arctic Circle. The Blue Nose ceremony, you would go in. I dove right in. And it wasn't that cold. Another highlight was going to North Norway, went to Narvik, at the top of Norway. We went on a special hike. The train took us up to the top of the mountain. It was all snow up there. We put on snowshoes, hiking materials, and we snowshoed down. We each fell 5 times. And then it got, we didn't need snowshoes. We took them off, took this trail down to go and by the stream that followed this down at the base of this mountain. And we followed this with about 20 other people on this kind of tour with us. Here we follow this trail that looked like this to see shots like this up in Narvik, Norway, up here. On the way back home, we saw these and this kind of boat ride on the way back home. And we kept chasing waterfalls everywhere we went. There were waterfalls in all these ravines and everything. We saw over 100 waterfalls on our trip. Saw scenes like this in Norway. And honest to God, you guys remember reading Ulysses, where the sirens come and Ulysses had to plug his ear with wax? You remember that, reading that? Well, it's true, they do call. Honest to God, they're saying, baby, I want you, come near me. And so I was trying to listen to them because I could hear them talking. They're very seductive and very, it's wonderful. And we went to the special tours where we saw in the Arctic Circle, walruses on ice floes. Here we are dressed for that. Here they are back here. Get you closer in.
This is another trip that we took. We didn't want to go with Viking. We walked off the boat and hired somebody in the port and took us on the boat out to see the walruses.
And they're just fantastic. Again, out here, they just stay on there and sleep with the sirens calling. And then we took in northern Norway. We took the ATV rides. You had to get dressed up for these kind of things. She was much better at it than I am. So she drove. I just hung on for dear life.
It's true. It's true.
We stopped at a dog sled park, and they have all these dogs there. They used to have little houses to sleep in, and they like to pull things, and they're very excited to be around. They're very loving animals. Went on an RIV ride again, and chasing waterfalls in Norway and in Iceland, where we went around the whole part of Iceland, going up north and around it. We saw these kind of places, and I wanted to get as close as possible to it. These kind of places. And then we went to a place, well, actually we couldn't. The weather got to us. The North Sea is very rough, and it's very, very windy. So what happened?
Viking would not take us to the Golden Circle because they were afraid the buses would be knocked over on their sides in the wind. So they canceled it and they offered us some mamby-pamby thing to go see some horses or something, not our style. So we walked off the boat again and hired a taxi driver. Her name was Cherry. She took us the whole day to the Golden Circle and other things that he'll get into. But again, we went on our own, took a risk, and it was definitely worth it, and it was cheaper than Viking.
We paid $450 for a lady to take us around for about 8 hours. And to get back to the ship, we went in the Big Biller National Park. This is in between two tectonic plates. You can walk right in between them, which is what they did, right there. And the Golden Circle area. And she took us to places where the geothermal activity in Iceland, geysers that would erupt once every 5 minutes. So these kind of tours. This is right from the Led Zeppelin song. Come from the land of the ice and snow, from the midnight sun, where the hot springs flow. And you bet that was. And we saw fumaroles. It was very, very cold there. You could walk on these on planks to go out there, which was fun. And then we chased waterfalls again in Iceland, going to these places in the Golden Circle. Here we are walking up to them. See this? And it's my style. I wanted to get as close as possible to it, and we did without falling over. I wanted to get right next to it and fall into this.
The weather was 37 degrees. I do not like 37-degree weather anymore.
And she took us to a caldera that was full of water, and we went right down into it, seeing these kind of smoking activities. And then we had a trip. It was called the Nordic Walking Trip, where we followed a stream uphill to the source of where all these waterfalls were on a trail that was right next to the stream. And everywhere we went, there was gushing water coming from a source. So we took this trip, and we found out where these waterfalls would go to, hiking up on dirt trails with other people, and going up and up and up to go up to here to see this, and into the wild with Nordic hiking. And it was fun chasing all these things. I actually found a snowfield and brought a snowball back to the ship. And went whale watching in northern Norway. And sometimes in these big mountains, there's these big ravines in them. We hiked up there, called the Trolls Thorn hike. And we saw these places where these boulders had fallen into, making this kind of depression like a throne. Chasing waterfalls, and here we are in Greenland, in Nuuk. We saw glaciers like this next to an iceberg, and yes, we touched it, and yes, they are hard as cement. You can see the little granules that were made from snowflakes. This is what we wanted to do. We wanted to touch the things that we did. And into Nova Scotia, we would climb these granite boulders, and then from there, back to New York, where there's no place like home. We were gone so long, we forgot all our passwords. And the Statue of Liberty never looked so pretty. Never. And here we are with all our 250 pounds of luggage, going back to the villages. And to sum this up, we took 330 separate bus rides, 10 different kind of boats, 35 countries, 11,000 miles by plane, hiking up over a dozen mountains from 500 feet to 2,100 feet. We've had people in places from all over the world, and I can tell you one thing, they're all happy, and it's a fun place to visit, all these places. Everybody's wonderful to visit, and everybody's just a positive thing to be involved with. We did all the excursions and all the places we visited, had a wonderful staff on the ship. We never thought we'd be able to do this, but we went for it and joined the ski club, spend the kids' inheritance. We do this again in a heartbeat. We can't wait to do it again. And we want to say thank you from the three of us. Thank you much.
Now you